Your eyes do not deceive you. This is a video I have already released before, but I felt like I had enough of a grasp on video production and coupled with the release of the Pathfinder remasters that I felt like I should do a remaster of my early content. So in this video, I am going to reformat the information from my old video with new audio, script, and imagery. I hope you enjoy. Today we are going to look back and discuss one of the most important events in Golarion history, the Earthfall. The Earthfall was a nearly world-ending event that took place in -5293 AR, over 10,000 years ago. And I can hear what you're saying. How can a single event so far in the past still be relevant to current-day Golarion? Let's find out. Earthfall is one of the earliest events that we have absolute proof of within Golarion history, and is most likely the event with the furthest repercussions outside of the defeat of Rovagug. The consequences of the Earthfall have ripped across the entire planet and drastically altered not only the course of history, but the face of the planet itself. As in my original video, this will focus on the event of Earthfall and less on a deep dive into the civilizations impacted, but we will cover the basics of any civilization mentioned. As in the original, let's explore Golarion before the Earthfall. Golarion's largest civilizations at the time of the Earthfall were the human empires of Azlant and Thassalon, while the elves resided in Keonan and the Kellids far to the north. The Azlanti people are the main driving force of the Earthfall, so they will have the most detail in this video. The Azlant people demonstrated remarkable advancements, delving into the realms of science, technology, and magic, secrets of which, even after 10,000 years, remain only partially rediscovered. It is crucial to note, however, that the Azlants did not reach such extraordinary progress solely through their own efforts. The ascendancy of the Azlant people to their pinnacle of advancement was not an independent achievement. It was orchestrated by an enigmatic species of aberrations known as the Aboleth. These sea-dwelling beings wielded mind control and the ability to grant water breathing, manipulating humanoid races into servitude. Under the Aboleth's influence, enslaved beings would construct opulent underwater cities across the expansive ocean territories situated to the east of Arcadia and to the west of Avestan and Garund. Through the use of their formidable mind magic, the Aboleths elevated the Azlant people from primitive origins to a highly sophisticated civilization. Detailed imagery of this era is scarce, hinting at the ominous fate that befell Azlant. But we do have an idea of the outcome that seems to be shrouded in historical obscurity. For a significant period, Azlant thrived, with its leaders beginning to regard themselves as the preeminent race on the surface of Golarion. However, conflicting info arises at this juncture, presenting two different accounts of what happened. According to one account, some sources suggest the leaders of Azlant were aware of the Aboleth's influence and came to believe that they had surpassed their masters in power, deeming them obsolete. On the other hand, another narrative posts that Azlant remained oblivious to the Aboleth's role in their culture, even as the cataclysmic event known as Earthfall loomed. We do know a certain portion of the population knew of the Aboleths. It is just unclear how much of the population knew of them. Irregardless, the Aboleths harbored resentment toward the Azlanti people, demanding retribution from a civilization that they had raised from savagery, as articulated in the Mythic Realms Companion book on page 16. Their magic reached far beyond the lands of Golarion, stretching into the depths of space to the very fringes of reality. There, in a place devoid of warmth and light, they found a body of starborn poison and metal, the drifting corpse of an unborn planet, a weapon for murdering worlds. Their power wrapped around this star-forged blade and drew it to Golarion. This body of starborn poison and metal was a massive meteor, made of a unique alloy that had become known as Starstone. This meteor was lassoed by the Aboleth's communal telekinesis and pulled down to the planet's surface. Due to their position beneath the oceans of Golarion, they would remain untouched, while the surface world would die on impact. After the destruction had passed, the aboleths would resurface and reseed the planet for a new empire. However, owing largely to the desperate intervention of two Azlanti deities, the destructive potential of the Starstone was ultimately neutralized. Akavna, the Azlanti goddess of battle and moon, became aware of the aboleth's nefarious plan. In a courageous act, she propelled Golarion's moon into the trajectory of this metallic mass, causing it to splinter into thousands of deadly shards. Regrettably, even gods are not impervious to death. The reconstructed Starstone, now consisting of thousands of dagger-like metal fragments, descended ominously toward Golarion. Drawn by magic, these lethal shards would inflict fatal wounds upon Akavna, leading to her demise. Devastated by the death of his lover, Amaznin, the god of magic for the Azlanti people, was overwhelmed with grief. In a single act of self-sacrifice, he chose to extinguish the magical forces that were drawing these shards toward Golarion. Through this sacrificial act, Amaznin succeeded in slowing the meteor storm. Although still immensely destructive, this planet killer that had been summoned by the aboleths failed to realize the outcome that they had hoped. The impact of the Starstone with the planet's surface was still undoubtedly catastrophic, and while specific details are scarce, an attempt can be made to list the consequences that are known of this momentous event. This list will serve as a glimpse into how profoundly different the world could have been had this cataclysmic occurrence never happened. Collision of the Starstone triggered a cascade of natural disasters and volcanic eruptions, unleashing a chain reaction that propelled copious amounts of dust and smog into the atmosphere. The repercussions of this were profound, leading to a sun-obscuring shroud that persisted for 1,000 years. The survival of life under such extreme conditions seems to be almost a miracle, and the resurgence and flourishing of life across the entire surface of Golarion is nothing short of astounding. This would trigger the Age of Darkness. The aftermath of Earthfall left an indelible mark on the planet's surface, altering it in ways that have endured throughout the ages. While concrete evidence of the pre-Earthfall state remains elusive, certain geographical changes endure to this very day. For example, as described in the Inner Sea World Guide on page 32, the most important waterway in the region is the eponymous Inner Sea. Despite this import, this region is also the youngest waterway in the area, for until Earthfall, when that strange rock known as the Starstone plunged into Golarion, the continents of Garund and Avestan were connected by a land bridge. The violence of Earthfall created a massive circular crater and sent powerful shockwaves along the continental divide, collapsing much of both into ruin and allowing the waters of the Arcadian Ocean to flow east. From this section, we can determine the original map must have appeared similar to this. Where you may be used to seeing the Inner Sea and Absalom, you will see what appears to have either been a large valley or more land that was smashed into this crater by the Starstone's impact. Either way, there used to be a land bridge between Avestan and Garund, which this impact destroyed. Over on Tien Sha, the impact of Earthfall manifested with dramatic force. Tsunamis would reshape the coastlines of the continents. Seismic shockwaves were so potent that they triggered a colossal eruption of the Qinlun Mountains, reaching such magnitude that it blocked the sun. The combination of these catastrophic events left an enduring mark on the geography and climate of Tien Sha. The Aboleth did succeed in getting what they ultimately wished from the Earthfall. The destruction caused the collapse of multiple civilizations, but Azlant, particularly targeted by the Aboleths, bore the brunt of this devastation. Instead of the once grand continent, what remains 10,000 years later are scattered islands, and a significant portion of the landmass is still submerged beneath the sea. While Azlanti Civilization faced near obliteration, the Azlanti people themselves were not entirely erased from history. Eredin, one of the last Azlanti, emerged as a leader amongst the survivors, guiding them eastward to what is now modern-day Avestan. Aslan, even before the cataclysmic Earthfall, teetered on the brink of collapse due to internal strife amongst the 7 rune lords who governed the kingdom. These rulers had ousted Emperor Shin, subjecting a civilization of giants to enslavement and compelling them to construct towering cities. With the city's resources depleted and the rune lords exhibiting unprecedented levels of cruelty, Thassalon was hurtling toward its demise. However, similar to Azlant, the rune lords had anticipated the impending apocalypse and took measures to ensure their survival, making careful preparations that would outlast the impending catastrophe. Golgon, an ancient Cyclopean civilization, originally spanned across the expansive territory where the tumultuous Eye of Abendingo now resides. Despite its auspicious beginnings, the civilization eventually descended into a dark path, marked by resorting to cannibalism and the worship of sinister deities in a desperate bid to revive its once thriving culture. By negative 5293, much of Golgon had already crumbled, but Earthfall delivered the final death blow. The seismic upheavals triggered by Earthfall submerged the remnants of Golgon beneath the depths of the Arcadian Ocean. It wasn't until 4111 AR that Chalaxian explorers would stumble upon the haunted remains of Golgon. However, the disturbing nature of the discoveries there led them to abstain from establishing a settlement in that area. Another Cyclopean civilization named Coralan also met its demise during Earthfall, though we have little to no information about this particular civilization. The elves of Golarion, gifted with glimpses of this impending collision, utilized the Sovereign Stone to depart the surface, retreating to their homeworld of Sovereign through magical portals. Those who remained on Golarion were compelled to seek refuge underground during Earthfall. Over thousands of years, the harsh conditions of the Darklands took a toll on them, causing their skin to darken and their hair to fade to a somber white. These elves have become the Ayendalar, dwelling in the subterranean depths where they resided ever since. As for the dwarves of Golarion, situated within Narvoth, the uppermost region of the Darklands, they embarked on a quest for the surface after the Earthfall. Torag, the dwarven god, had forewarned them when the ground shook beneath their feet that they must ascend upwards towards the surface. The impact was so deep that it reverberated through every corner of the earth, prompting the dwarves to heed their god's counsel and march upwards. Although their departure commenced in negative 5293, numerous challenges, including internal conflicts and battles against orcs and various Underdark races, prolonged their journey. It wasn't until negative 4987 that the dwarven race successfully emerged onto the surface. If you want to learn more about this particular event, I have a video and it will be tagged above. The Orcs of Golarion, who co-inhabited Narvoth alongside the dwarves, found themselves compelled to flee skyward as well, running from the pursuing dwarven crusade that was coming from below. Unlike their more civilized counterparts, the Orcs of then were at a primitive stage of evolution, almost akin to animals. Realizing that sheer brute strength alone would not secure their survival, the Orcs adapted by learning to wield abandoned dwarven weaponry and modifying armor to better suit their more robust frames. In negative 5102, just preceding their dwarven adversaries, the Orcs breached the surface and unleashed chaos across the land, during a period they later termed the Sacking. In the aftermath of Earthfall, the Kellid tribes spanning northern Avestan adopted a strategy of retreat, seeking refuge within caves. Despite facing challenges such as encounters with orcs and other subterranean horrors, the Kellids, renowned for their strength and resilience, fared relatively well compared to other groups of survivors. As the orcs and dwarves made it to the surface, they would once again drive the Kellids out of their subterranean shelters and compel them to resurface, marking their return to the open terrain. During the Age of Darkness, Zon-Kuthon, the Prince of Pain, made a return to Golarion. Abadar, the god of culture, incensed by the atrocities committed by Zon-Kuthon and his devotees, decided to take action. Abadar struck a deal with the malevolent god. In exchange for going into exile within the Plane of Shadow for as long as the sun illuminated the sky, Zon-Kuthon would be granted the privilege to select one item of his preference from the legendary First Vault, a repository of all of Abadar's treasures. As the world was blanketed in a sheet of ash obscuring the sun, Zon-Kuthon claimed their deal was done and returned to the material plane. In adherence to their agreement, he opted to claim the first of the undead shadows from Abadar's vault, marking the continuation of his influence on Golarion. Alongside the reappearance of Zon-Kuthon, the impact of the Starstone also brought with it the arrival of Zomindor, an ancient deity also known as the Inmost Blot. The celestial collision ensnared a fragment of this old god, dragging it down to Golarion's surface. This otherworldly blot descended into a random lake on Golarion, giving rise to the city of Nen-Zavine. Over time, the entire city became corrupted by the influence of this old god. A group of courageous heroes emerged to confront the burgeoning cult, and with their intervention, the malevolent influence of Zomindor was quelled. However, recognizing the persistent threat posed by the old god, a decisive action was required. The ultimate solution emerged through the intervention of the legendary Tarrasque, an immensely powerful creature, which, in a remarkable turn of events, erased all knowledge of Zomindor by wiping the city from the face of the planet. This extraordinary act effectively severed the lingering threat of the ancient deity. Until, that is, Hasserton Lowles IV, a Count of Ustalov, would stumble across ancient texts that mentioned the Inmost Blot, reviving him once again. In the aftermath of Earthfall, the fabric of history was nearly lost, with most records from periods preceding the Cataclysm fading into oblivion. Yet, Golarion's recovery found its champions in the Kellids, the surviving Azlanti, and those who survived within the Mwangi region. Among the heralds of this renewal was old mage Jatimbe, who embarked on a journey to rediscover magic. His efforts culminated in the creation of the 10 Magic Warriors, tasked with spreading knowledge of magic once more, casting a light into the realms of forgotten lore. Meanwhile, deep beneath the newly formed Inner Sea, the Starstone core lay buried, destined for a significant role in Golarion's resurgence. Raised to the surface on the Isle of Kortos, it became the birthing ground for several of the realm's deities, ushering in a new era as the world began to rebuild from the ashes of its past. Contemplating the ramifications of Earthfall and Golarion reveals the profound and far-reaching impacts of this event. Without its devastating influence, the dwarves and the orcs might have remained concealed beneath the surface, and the aboleths would stand as supreme rulers of the planet unchallenged. Zon-Kuthon's presence may have faded into obscurity, and the very visage of the planet could have undergone an unrecognizable transformation. In this alternate scenario, the course of history on Golarion would have unfolded along vastly different lines, highlighting the role that Earthfall played in shaping the current state of the world. This cataclysm served as a crucible, altering the destiny of races, gods, and the landscapes itself. I hope you enjoyed this remaster. I have been dying to take the time to redo some of my first content and work out some of my audio issues from back then, so I hope this video does well. I look forward to seeing you back in the library next time, when we discuss something a bit newer. Thank you, and I hope you have a good day.